Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Only the hollow thump of a body falling to the ground could break the eerie hush that ensued. That night would be permanently etched in Steffy 4's soul as reality broke and re-wove itself into something unrecognizable in those halted moments. Her breath caught in her throat as she gazed wide-eyed and still at the unthinkable scene in front of her. Sheila Carter, the woman she had detested, fought and feared for years, lying in a pool of her own blood, her eyes full of a strange peace that neither rage nor revenge had ever given. Her chest heaving with fast, painful breaths. Luna also remained motionless, her lips open in fear, the gun shaking in her fingers and tears welling up in her eyes as the adrenaline from her deeds overcame her. She didn't intend to shoot Sheila or anybody else, but the situation had gotten out of hand, like a cyclone of treachery, secrets, and insanity that was impossible to unravel. Not even completely conscious of what she was doing, Steffy fell to her knees next to Sheila. Something inside her burst at the sight of a dying woman. Not just any woman, but the woman who had just thrown herself in front of a bullet meant for her. Despite everything, even after Sheila had tortured them for years, shooting Finn, almost destroying her family repeatedly, manipulating her way into their lives to defend Steffy Forrester, her nemesis, her passion, her twisted link to the life she was never supposed to have. Sheila Carter, the infamous villain of Los Angeles and the woman many called a monster, had wasted her last remaining power. The irony was harsh, almost cosmic. Why? As she held Sheila's shaking hand and attempted to make sense of the nightmare, Steffy's voice wavered, tinged with confusion and agony. Her own pulse was pounding. The wet sound of Sheila's cough turned scarlet as blood gushed from her lips. Her body trembled furiously, and she tried to speak, but the words stumbled in her throat, as though building a last cocoon for this unthinkable moment. Steffy leaned closer, her hair cascading about her like a veil, protecting them from the outside world. Sheila's eyes met hers, but they were filled with something softer and more profound than the frenzied fire Steffy had grown accustomed to. Then, with what appeared to be the last of her power, she whispered 6 gasping, broken words that would reverberate in Steffy's heart forever. "I did it for you, Steffy." Her lips trembled once more, fighting to form the words, the sentences. Simplicity cut through all the years of animosity, mistrust, and conflicts between them like a knife to the gut. Steffy flinched as though the statement were physically weighing on her, but she was unable to release Sheila's hand. In an attempt to find some meaning in what had just happened, her thoughts raced, going back a few hours and days. For what reason would Sheila put herself at danger for her? What did she mean? Was it atonement, feeling guilty, or a last act of rebellion against the gloom that had long engulfed her? Luna collapsed into Finn's arms nearby, hysterical and pleading for forgiveness, unable to comprehend what had just transpired. How? Her jealousy, her spiraling mistrust, and her desire to hurt Steffy had unintentionally taken the life of the most unpredictable figure in their lives. The tears now flowed freely down Steffy's cheeks. In order to keep Steffy alive, the exact person they had been attempting to avoid for years had now passed away. Before the shooting, there had been an unbelievable flurry of allegations, statements, and startling disclosures. In a fit of rage, Luna had confronted Steffy, her mind warped by dark manipulations and half-truths from an unidentified source. This person had fed her false information about Steffy, destroying her relationship with RJ, about Steffy buying someone off to keep a secret about her mother, and even that Steffy had threatened to send Lee back to Tokyo if Luna didn't leave. Luna had come with weapons because she had firmly and fervently believed it. She later stated that the gun had only been intended to frighten, not to murder. However, the room had exploded in yelling, with Finn attempting to shield his wife, Steffy pressing for clarification, and Sheila unexpectedly, frighteningly coming to put an end to it all. When Sheila seen Luna at Deacon's restaurant earlier that day, twitchy, anxious, and with something in her purse, she became aware that something was up. Perhaps it was the predator in her that sensed danger in the air. Or perhaps it was the mother in her. Unnoticed and unheard, she trailed Luna to the Cliff House. It had only been a few moments since Sheila had witnessed the altercation before it became irreparable. Time seemed to pause as Luna drew the weapon and aimed it at Steffy. For once, Sheila's eyes were free of calculations, manipulation, and self-interest. Just one innate choice. Between them, she dove. The gunshot echoed. The force of the crash caused her body to twist, and the rest fell into grief, blood, and 6 words that would never be forgotten. The hopelessness of the paramedics' attempts to revive her became apparent as they arrived. Stunned and powerless, Finn stepped forward, unable to comprehend that his wife had just been saved by the mother he had spurned, hated, and disowned. As he looked down at Sheila's pallid face, he muttered out loud, his voice quivering, "Why would she do this? Why would she come to your aid?" Steffy continued to hold Sheila's dead fingers while she shook her head. "She did it for me," she claimed. Furthermore, nobody understood how to respond. A somber, crushing heaviness now took the place of the tension in the room. The days that followed were a jumble of news reports, questioning, remorse, and sadness. The tragedy was widely reported by the media. Sheila Carter died heroically, preserving Steffy Forrester. Villain or martyr? Another said, Sheila's last act sparks debate in LA. Many questioned whether a plea agreement would be achieved given Luna's fragile state and emotional manipulation by an unidentified puppet master behind the scenes, but she was arrested and detained without bail. RJ declined to pay her a visit. Lee wouldn't talk to her. Finn withdrew into himself, wanting time to process the emotional devastation of losing his mother and nearly his wife. He felt deceived by everyone and was devastated. Those 6 words tormented Steffy, and she began to reflect on her life. They kept coming back to her mind. "Steffy, I did it for you." Why? What were they trying to say? Had she been loved by Sheila in her own crazy way? Had she viewed Steffy as a daughter she never had, or worse, as a substitute for Finn's unfulfilled love? Or had Sheila just realized that saving Steffy would finally irrevocably matter, and had found one last opportunity to make amends? Shaken by the events and struggling with their own tumultuous past with Sheila, Ridge and Taylor came to support their daughter. Taylor remarked softly one evening, perhaps she simply didn't want to be the antagonist anymore, or perhaps the only way she could change her story was to save you. Steffy wasn't certain, though. She visited the place several times in privacy, standing where Sheila had fallen and gazing out to sea. She struggled to make sense of the impossible as the whispers of that night were borne by the wind. Sheila Carter had saved her life, but she had also caused her immense pain, and it had altered something basic in Steffy. Whether it was due to love, insanity, or both. Sheila was no longer a one-dimensional monster in her eyes. Beneath the pandemonium, she could see the shattered woman, the pain and the need for family, and the extent to which she suddenly realized that scared her. Small, reserved, and silent, Steffy watched from the back, disguised behind dark shades, while Deacon spoke a few shaky words at Sheila's burial. Nobody else said anything except for a distant cousin from Genoa City who hurried away. Nobody else showed there. When everyone had left, Steffy stayed behind, watching the sun set over the cemetery. "I understand, but I don't forgive you," she muttered into the quiet. Then she turned away, the 6 words reverberating in her mind, engraved indelibly. "I did it for you, Steffy." Although Steffy Forrester had experienced sadness in the past, she had buried lovers, friends, and even pieces of herself. Nothing had prepared her for the emotional devastation that followed Sheila Carter's passing. It wasn't that she missed Sheila, not because she had been pardoned, but because everything had lost its meaning. Brick by brick, she had been building a steely wall of hatred toward Sheila for years. Then, with one unimaginable act of sacrifice, Sheila had destroyed it all in an instant. This was not how it was meant to end. Steffy had always thought that Sheila would either disappear from their life forever or go out in shame or jail, not dying with blood on her lips and love real love in her last breath on the floor of her living room. Life in Los Angeles continued as the days became into weeks. Nothing felt the same. However, inside the Cliff home in the Forrester estate, Finn had buried himself in patient care, avoiding his feelings by immersing himself in his work and speaking only when required. At the funeral, he had not shed a tear since that day. He had hardly said a few words, at most. However, Steffy saw it in his eyes. The guilt, the unresolved discomfort. Something inside of him had always yearned for a different Sheila, something that was always there. And that version had appeared, although to perish. Steffy made an effort to keep things as normal as possible by concentrating on the kids. However, Kelly had also observed. One morning, while Steffy was packing her lunch, she said, "Mommy, why are you always depressed? Like a tidal wave." The question struck her. You can't even breathe without hearing the woman's last words. But she saved your life. How do you explain that? How do you describe the weird, eerie bewilderment that comes with grieving over someone you detested? Taylor and Ridge were always checking in. Ridge was more irate than ever, certain that Sheila had planned the entire incident to garner attention and a last-ditch show of compassion. However, Taylor saw a different side, possibly as a result of her personal experience with mental health. During one of their lengthy coffee chats in the Forrester kitchen, she stated Sheila wasn't stable, but that doesn't mean her final act wasn't real. At the end, some people find clarity. Perhaps she was trying to make amends by saving you. Steffy wasn't sure if she should believe that, but she kept thinking of Sheila's eyes, which were gentle and almost maternal in her last moments. Then the unexpected turn of events occurred. Sheila had left a letter 2 days following her death. Deacon discovered it concealed in a tiny envelope with the simple words to Steffy. Nervous, uncertain if she would even accept it, he brought it to her directly. "I don't know what's in it," he added, looking her in the eyes as he put it in her hand. "However, whatever she wrote was intended just for you." Steffy took a while to open it. For 3 more days, unable to even touch it without her hand shaking, she stored it in the drawer of her nightstand. She opened it, alone late at night with the children asleep and the wind rustling the windows, and the first thing she read made her knees give out. Hey, Steffy. I'm leaving if you're reading this. And perhaps that's better for everyone. Even if I did, I never intended to hurt you. I spent my entire life pursuing something. Love and acceptance.